All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're not just gardening. Nope. We're talking about something a lot more intense. Think of it as performing a life-saving surgery for your potted plants. This is your surgeon's guide to root pruning.
So let me ask you something, and it might sound a little dramatic. Is your houseplant secretly strangling itself? I know, it's a wild question, but it's one you really need to consider. Because, inside that gorgeous pot on your windowsill, your plant could be fighting this slow, silent battle for its life. And that struggle? It all starts way down, deep inside the roots.
The official term for this condition is being root-bound. But honestly, that's way too gentle for what's actually going on. A much better way to think about it is structural strangulation. The roots grow, they hit the wall of the pot, and they've got nowhere to go. So they just start circling, tightening, and basically choking off the plant's entire life support system.
And these roots, these circling or girdling roots, they act just like a tourniquet. I mean, exactly like one. They wrap themselves around the main trunk, they wrap around other roots, and they just squeeze, cutting off the flow of water, of nutrients, of everything. They are literally starving the plant from the bottom up.
Okay, so that's the scary part, but here's where it gets really, really cool. By stepping in, by performing this surgery, we can actually trigger this incredible, powerful, natural response from the plant. So let's dive into the science of how this whole procedure can lead to a total rebirth.
So the plant's recovery doesn't happen instantly. It happens in these very distinct phases. For the first 3 days or so, the plant goes into full-on defense mode. It's all about damage control, right? Healing those fresh cuts. But after that, that's when the real magic kicks in. You got this rejuvenation period that can last for hundreds of hours, all happening completely out of sight, under the soil, way before you see any new growth on top.
And what's driving all this? It's a hormonal cascade. It's this perfectly coordinated internal emergency response system. You've got IAA, think of that as the head engineer. It gets the signal and immediately starts shouting orders to build new roots, new infrastructure. Then you've got ABA, that's your crisis manager. Its job is to manage the stress by conserving water. And finally, jasmonic acid. That's the medic rushing to the scene to heal all the wounds. It's an incredible system.
So the whole point of this, the end goal, is this incredible transformation. You're taking this old, congested, woody root system that's just, well, not doing its job very well, and you're forcing it to create a brand new, super dense network of fine feeder roots. And these new roots, they are just ridiculously efficient at sucking up water and nutrients.
And if you want proof, get this. Studies have shown that after a proper pruning, plants can show a, wait for it, 407% increase in new regenerative roots. That's not a typo, 407%. So you see, you're not just fixing a problem here. You're literally creating a supercharged, high-performance root system for your plant. Okay, so we get the why now. We understand the science behind it. So let's scrub in, shall we? It's time to go through the actual surgical procedure, step by careful step. It really comes down to 3 main steps. First up is the extraction. That's just carefully getting the plant, out of its pot. Next is exposure. Here you're gently teasing away the old soil so you can actually see what you're dealing with, diagnose the root situation. And finally, the most important part, the cutting. This is where you make those strategic cuts to get rid of those harmful circling roots.
Now, before you pick up a single tool, listen up, because this is probably the most important rule of the entire process, the 1/3 rule. You can safely remove up to about 25 to 33%, so 1/3 of the total root mass. If you go beyond that, you risk sending the plant into systemic shock. And honestly, it might not come back from that. So remember, 1/3 is the limit.
And just like any surgeon, you're going to need the right toolkit. Nothing too fancy. A serrated knife, like an old bread knife, or a small pruning saw, is perfect for cutting through that really dense outer layer of roots. You'll want some sharp bypass pruners for the more delicate, precision cuts right near the trunk. And for teasing apart the roots to see what's going on, a root hook works great, but honestly, a simple chopstick does the job just fine. Okay, one more thing about tools, and this is totally non-negotiable. You have to sterilize them. Seriously, a quick wipe with some rubbing alcohol or a little dip in a bleach solution, that's all it takes. This prevents spreading some really nasty stuff, like root rot, from one plant to another. So please, clean your tools between every single plant. No exceptions. All right, so you've got your sanitized tools, you know the basic steps, but here's a crucial point. A great surgeon knows every patient is different, right? Well, it's the exact same for plants. You absolutely cannot use the same aggressive approach on every single one. You've got to know your patient.
And here's the biggest biological difference you need to know. It comes down to dicots versus monocots. So dicot plants, think of a ficus tree or a maple, they're amazing. You can cut a root and they can actually regenerate a new one right from that cut. But monocots, we're talking palms, orchids, grasses, they can't do that. Once you chop off a healthy root on a monocot, that's it. It's gone forever. And that right there is why they are so much more sensitive to this whole procedure.
So, let's break this down into a really practical guide. For your super tough, high-tolerance plants, your ficus, your monsteras, go for it. They can handle that full 1/3 root removal just fine. Then you have your moderate tolerance plants like a peace lily. They also do pretty well, but you'll need to make sure you give them extra humidity while they recover. And then, we have the sensitive group. For things with low tolerance like palms, and especially for the really risk-sensitive ones like orchids or succulents, your rule is super simple. You only ever cut off what is already dead, mushy, or diseased. That's it. Hands off the healthy roots.
And remember, getting the surgery right is only half the battle. What you do after is just as important. The post-op care is absolutely critical if you want your plant to have a full, healthy recovery. The biggest challenge after the procedure is something I call the watering paradox. Think about it. The plant has fewer roots, so it can't drink up a lot of water, which makes it super easy for it to dry out. But at the same time, those fresh wounds on the roots make it really easy for root rot to set in if the soil is too wet. See the problem? It's this incredibly delicate balancing act.
So here's your simple post-op checklist to get it right. First, when you water, just give it enough to settle the new soil around the roots. Do not saturate it. Second, crank up the humidity around the plant. Misting helps. Third, get it out of any direct sun. Bright, indirect light is perfect. And last, and this is a big one, no fertilizer. None. Not until you see new growth popping out. That's your signal that the root system has recovered and is ready for it.
So you do all that. What's the payoff? Well, the results are just wow. The data shows that a plant that's been properly root pruned can end up with a root system that has double the total surface area of a plant that was left alone. Double! That's the long-term win here. You end up with a plant that is just fundamentally stronger, healthier, and way more vigorous.
Look, the tools are simple. The techniques, as you've seen, are pretty straightforward, and the science behind it is crystal clear. As long as you understand your specific plant and you follow these steps, you literally have the power to turn its health around and kickstart some amazing new growth. So, the only question I have for you is, are you ready to scrub in and perform this life-saving surgery?